buffer zone called pre-travel. Same thing when I end, a little hot, so we create a buffer zone called post-travel.
Okay.
When surface finish first came out, that was very important. Technology has improved, so it's not as important now. So I'm not as worried about it. But if I have room, and I got room, I'm gonna leave it on. Okay, it's just a little stabilizing force. Delete wave is, we can turn it off, don't even worry about it. Profile count, that's if you're going over a radius, you can filter out the trend before you calculate. I'm not gonna worry about that. And mean line, doesn't even matter what you want to do with it, because it's off for ISO. So again, under that lambda C, you get 3 pages as someone say bullcrap. But if you can understand bullcrap, you can use any surface roughnesses because they're all the same. Okay? Mid-choice is better, but they're all the same. So 0.8 times 5. Go to the patch. Make sure I'm running perpendicular to the leg. Position it to 0. I should show you one more thing. In lambda C, you've got the speed button. This is your measuring condition. So here, this is called evaluation condition. So how am I going to filter the data? And then measure condition is what do I want it to do. So measuring speed is 0.5 millimeter second. The only thing I care about on this page is on page 2, there's an auto return. Auto return on. That means after the measurement's completed, it's going to return to the start position. If that's turned off, that's where you'll lose your travel. That's where you'll get that limit error because you'll run out of room.
It's going to go 4 millimeters, not auto return. Then the next time you take it apart, it's going to go 4 millimeters, not return. You're going to get to the point where after 10 of those iterations of 4 millimeters, it can't drive it.
And then you're going to call me and say you got a limit error, and I'm going to hang up on you, and you're going to call me back. And
So if you had that auto return,
that was wonderful.
Auto return.
You
Auto
probably want to
return
keep
has to be
Angela
on.
away from this. It's
Trying to sabotage it.
So auto return, turn on. Okay?
So it's going to drag back across.
Yeah,
Before it came
it's
this
always
way, it's
pulls.
gonna go
It
that way.
always pulls. So when I hit start, it's going to pull. This is what they call the stylus. This is the detector. This is the drive unit. This is called the leveling shroud, and this is called the controller. Okay. It'll be a test when I'm done.
Oh dear. I got stylus. You got something else?
What I want to do is
Oh,
I want to
detector.
establish repeatability.
Stylus.
Because repeatability tells me the unit's working properly.
Yes.
Okay? So I'm going to ask you to get off the table. When I hit start, we're going to take a measurement. It's going to return. We're going to record the number just in our head, and then we'll hit start again. So we're going to establish repeatability. What is beeping? Is that your phone? Is that my
Probably.
phone?
I don't know.
I think you're hearing things, man.
No, there's something on beep.
Probably my phone. It's probably an email.
So you're saying the measurement shard goes this way, and our measurement was going this way?
Was we pushing?
pulling.
No, it was
It
pulling.
was? Okay.
So
I just didn't know if it's going to keep dragging.
just record the value 2.950.
Oh, touch the table.
I thought you said record the value.
Don't touch the table.
Oh, upstairs.
Because again, all we're doing is, who establishes repeatability? You know, if you're comfortable with your environment, maybe 2 measurements establishes your repeatability.
Oh, hey, it's
Yeah.
perfect, 2.9
Let's,
plus 5.
let me just tell you that Apple is not comfortable with that.
With what?
Like
2
that,
measurements.
Oh, okay.
they want us to be
200.
between 0.05. Yeah.
I'm glad they're not involved in auto bubble reduction. Holy
Or aircraft manufacturing.
Well, there's way more variation in printing than any other industry ever.
Totally
It truly
different.
is.
And
from
there's
a
more-
mold.
Well, that and plastics. Plastics has pretty wide tolerances on things just because you're at the mercy of a material that's not very
Yeah.
rigid.
Well,
You know,
well,
just like this
yeah,
paper. It's not,
exactly.
there's so many characteristics of the paper even that can vary.
We're preaching to the choir, aren't we?
Yes.
So we've taken 4 measurements. We got 2.950.
And they're all the same, perfect, okay.
And that,
What does repeatability tell us? Repeatability tells us that the stylus is in good shape, the detector's working properly, the drive unit's working properly, everything's working properly.
Okay.
Okay? I don't even care if the number was off from the patch, even though it's, well, it's 2.97 patch, isn't it?
2.97, yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna calibrate anyway. Technically, we don't need to, because it's plus or minus 3% of the stated value is the accuracy of that specimen,
okay.
which works out to be about 0.08 something. So 2.97 plus 0.08 and minus 0.08 is your range. We're gonna calibrate anyways, because
What if you were getting big differences in those?
Yeah, I was gonna say,
four numbers?
what's the troubleshooting?
But that would, if that would happen, that's because your stylus is probably worn and it's probably frayed. Right now, it's a nice cone-shaped diamond tip, okay? As you use it, it's gonna wear out. Now,
On paper.
It'd take a
depending-
while on paper.
right, it really comes down to how it's
Unless
being
they
used,
leave it in
or
there and
somebody
drag
shoving,
it around and-
shoving a piece of paper under it when we're.
Shoving
shoving
it-
it in. But that's what's gonna damage it is, I don't wanna say misuse, but just, inadvertent use. Pulling the specimen out without lifting the stylus up. Okay? So when it starts to fray, well, now you got these basically hairs sticking off it, and the hairs are grabbing onto it, and they're hopping, and so you get a 2.95, then you get a 3.27, then you get a 1.68, then you get a 4.6. That is not repeatable. Okay?
And high percentages, it's the stylus,
More times than not, yes.
okay.
That I have seen on occasion, if you're replacing styli, there's many different styli available for this unit, so if you had different applications, you might put a different stylus in. When operators are changing styli, they tend to wear out the detector. So, when you create slop in your detector, then your repeatability suffers also. Okay? Once you establish repeatability, then we can evaluate this number based on that patch. The patch is 2.97, we're getting 2.95. Technically, we're good, but we're gonna calibrate anyways, okay? So, let's say I don't like this number. Well, I'm gonna go into my measure button. I'm sorry, menu button. Menu button. The first option is calibration measurement, okay? When I enter into calibration measurement, it brings up kind of a home screen, but it's a little different in the fact that it's now in calibration mode. So it's telling me what stylus is being used, it's telling me the conditions here, and it's telling me a value here. So I'm gonna go into my menu down here. I've got a special menu button. That allows me to set up my nominal value. So my nominal value is 2.97. Glasses for this. Working upside down.
By the way, if this is the only patch you guys use, once he puts this in there, it's a sticky setting, meaning it won't change until somebody goes in and changes
Oh,
it.
good.
So-
Or the battery dies.
Oh, the battery does.
That's
okay.
happened before.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't it?
All right, and now I'm also gonna set up my calibration condition to match what I was measuring. Who wrote down what I was using conditions to measure the patch?
I don't know.
I did.
Quiet, Jimmy, quiet, Jimmy.
0.08, 0.8,
Yeah, what,
What's
you wanna set up?
Times 5.
times 5.
Well,
Yeah.
the N was 5.
Should have a RA profile.
So here's the screen.
Okay.
You start from here. What's standard? What standard do I wanna use?
IS,
All right, so, okay.
Okay.
If you wanna use pencil.
We hate that thing.
Okay.
Um,
Lamb to see.
Atta girl.
Lamb to see.
Okay, and that
You're not
should
getting a
be-
discount on that.
Yeah. It's 0.08, right? Or is it 0.8?
I don't know, is it .08?
0.8.
Okay,
0.8.
good thing you didn't have the electrodes hooked up.
Yeah, I
0.8.
wrote down 0.8, so good
Let's hit the
thing.
down arrow, get us, oh, you said
No.
okay, that's okay.
Let's go
So we're
back.
gonna go back into the cal condition.
Okay.
There you go. 0.8, and
5.
It's 5.
your measuring speed. Measuring speed becomes important when your stylus length gets longer or deeper. You're fine. I don't care what speed you put on there. We're in the US, we're gonna get things done in a hurry, use 0.5 millimeter a second.
So 0.5 and our speed should be.
Mhm. Your range, and this is unique to Midatoya as of today. Their competitors are trying to catch up. But range is how much range, or the measuring envelope of this stylus. You have an 800 micron measuring range. Your stylus will move 800 micron. All right. Auto range means that it's gonna narrow down the range as much as it can to get the data in. What does that do? When you narrow down your range, you deepen your resolution, so you get more accuracy. So whenever I can keep my range to a minimum, I can get better accuracy.
That's what we need.
What are the options under range?
I'm not touching anymore.
Auto 80, 800, and
All right, 800 is your max, 80 is what you normally calibrate to, and 8 is for the lens industry. Auto is what you want, because what it'll do, and where you see it, is as the trace comes in, the scaling changes. So you'll see it come in, it's going on a sharp angle, and then it'll lessen, and then it'll lessen.
Yeah.
That's the auto range working.
Okay.
Starting at 8.
The auto range is opening itself up so the data will fit into the window. Okay? So that's all good. So we're gonna say okay.
Nothing else to look at.
No, really. You got the auto return, make sure that's turned on, but. All right, and say, or exit. All right, so now we take a look at this top bar again. Auto range, ISO, 0.5 millimeter second, 0.8 times 5, our nominal value. We ask everybody to get off the table.
Okay.
And go ahead and get started. So if you watch here,
That's my phone.
right now it's 3 micron, now it's 15, now it's 30. So the window is opening to get the data in.
I think moving the table is probably a big part of
So.
I'd be surprised at how.
Because we were like
I was
leaning
kinda
on the
waiting.
It only
table.
takes one per, you
All
know,
right,
if.
I'm gonna show you a little trick here to how to check your noise. But here's your your nominal, your actual, and then you got that bent arrow, the yellow arrow, that means to update. So go ahead and hit that button.
This here.
Bingo, it's done. So now we go home. Same data set, and I can't stress that enough. Once you start on the patch, don't move. We've established our repeatability, we've calibrated. Go ahead and hit start one more time.
Stop moving, Angela. I don't move, listen to her.
I usually start more fights than I solve problems. So. 2.967. But seriously, now when I hit measurement, I do want you to hit the table, all right? No, wait till the data switch. Go ahead.
Oh, look, it showed up. Look, it's there. Oh.
Let's see what value. we
That's
get.
why I told you to stay up. Now, RA, well, that actually affected it pretty severely.
Wow.
4%.
But let's go into our conditions and turn on a different parameter. We'll turn on the RT, which is total height of the profile. Oops, I should have probably hit recalculate. RA, RT, 400 microns.
What is that?
Yeah, what do you
RT
say?
is total height of, it's the highest peak to the lowest valley.
Okay.
Ultimately what we're gonna be using here, but we're not gonna
Okay.
use the R profile, we're gonna use the PT. If we wanna do it this way, the guy described it, he's gonna use the I don't know what the hell you call it, it's kinda like our contour. I don't wanna call it contour because this can't measure contour, but it can measure a step.
Okay.
So there's a special
Oh,
function
the
in
step,
there.
the
Right.
step function in there,
The
okay.
parameter is the best way to do it. So if we can correlate, and I can measure that with those triangles like he did in his guide here,
Mhm.
and I can get a parameter that correlates to it, and maybe we can just measure it with a parameter.
Okay.
And then whatever you see here, you're
We,
done.
we honestly don't even know who made that.
We really don't.
We assume that the
I'm
previous
gonna
quality
guess
manager
it
made
was
it,
Mohammed.
but we don't know.
Pretty good. Again, the only thing I've got against it is it's using the R profile. So the R profile, you got a step in there, it's gonna filter out the step. And that's why when you go in and look at his trace, it's not a step anymore, it's a V. That's not a V. Okay? So, this is the most important, because somebody you're measuring these things for is gonna say, no, you're wrong. And you gotta come here and be able to prove that you're not wrong.
Okay.
Okay, so that's how you prove that the equipment's working, is with this specimen.
Okay.
It's got a known value. When you take a trace and it displays that known value, that's the proof that the instrument's working properly. We should get a 2.97. We take a trace, we get 2.9675, and so we know the unit's working properly.
Okay, any questions on that?
No.
Again, that's the most important thing I can teach you.
No issues with the level of the table, or the level of
No,
wherever you're doing the.
you see this little
measuring.
wheel here on the back?
Mm-hmm.
That's your leveling. If you wanted to level to your surface, you could.
But we don't know how to use that.
Then do you wanna learn how to
Cause there's
use
no,
it?
how do you,
You
I
have a
mean,
bubble?
usually you have a
No.
bubble with a level.
You actually go through what's called a pre-measurement, and then it'll tell you how to adjust it, it'll tell you what to adjust it to.
But if you're saying if it's pretty flat, it's not gonna make a difference?
If you
If it
stay
stays
within
within the
range-
window.
If you stay within that 800 micron range, you should be good.
So unless you're on a slope like that.
As long
Right.
as it's right, exactly.
Okay,
I mean, I can
Okay.
show you the tilt if you want, it's no big deal.
what do you think?
It's pretty exciting stuff. It's out actually in the manual also. But